Mike Merlack here to entertain you with the help of The Clash. I'm so bored with the USA. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a lot of people from England singing that song wholeheartedly. Why? Because leftist ideology and progressiveness, what it was doing to our country and almost succeeded in destroying completely. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Doge. It's worse in England. It is worse in England. Yeah. The best of the Clash, or the Essential Clash, a 2-disc set. We come from, we're garbage land. We come from garbage land. Actually, the song is Garage Land. But I swear to God, when I first discovered it, I thought it was saying Garbage Land. And I'll tell you why. I saw a documentary years ago on the history of punk in England. Apparently, these poor kids got their clothes out of the garbage. In the back of the Salvation Army. They were wearing stuff that even the Salvation Army was looking at and saying, yeah, nobody's going to give us $1 for that. But you know, if you look at this picture long enough, if you really focus, you could almost hear him say, "Hey mate, don't smash the rhinestones." This is going to be journal entry number 39. I wanted to touch bases on some subtle comments I made in my last video, a couple of video shorts. When I was talking about the one I made about my father and his Palestinian friend, and I thought, you know, I should probably tell how I grew up being okay despite having a male feminist narcissist loser for a father. First of all, Mom, for the record, you were right. You were right. The school system where we were living with him was a much better school system. Your reasoning at the time might have been in part selfish, but you were right about that fact. The school systems out there were better. They would feed us on Friday morning and night, Friday when we first got there, and then before we left, they would feed us because our father wouldn't on Friday. So that's kind of addressing the comment I made about our father would get us up at 3 o'clock in the morning. No, that's not that one. That's our father's idiotic health ideas. He wouldn't let us eat on Friday. So to compensate for that, the school provides cereal in the morning for us and a peanut butter sandwich before we left. But with all this going on, though, you might wonder how the hell I grew up. Well, I knew my father was always a joke to me anyways. I knew that. Even though I was afraid of him because he was bigger than me and his fists and kicks hurt, I knew he was a joke. Intellectually, I knew I was superior to him. But I did have access to other men in my life, a shop teacher in grade school. Incidentally, this is my project that I made in grade school. It's a mail holder. This was a upgrade by my grandfather years later. I kind of inherited it back. It belonged to my grandparents. I made it for them. And as the labels on there were also my grandfather's idea. But I remember asking, what are we making? Because I was just a child. Oh, it's a mail holder. And I didn't fully grasp that concept. I was like, okay, whatever. You say it's a mail holder. Okay, I believe you. We're making a mail holder. But anyways, I knew these men, and I had access to at school. I thought, even as a child, I better pay attention to these real men, because they obviously know what the hell they're doing compared to my male feminist narcissist loser father. As a matter of fact, the shop teacher at this grade school owned a motorboat of his own, and on a field trip, we students in groups, in small groups, actually got to go on his motorboat. I don't remember his name. I could look it up in my yearbook, but I don't offhand remember his name. Only that he was a cool guy, and I learned the stuff from him I would never learn from my father. But the other reference I talked about, as far as my father getting us up to dust his house. Grandma was paying the mortgage, but to dust his house at 3 a.m. and also making us stay up till 11 because he don't like to be alone. This was life living with a male feminist loser narcissist. Anyways, I distinctly remember, this was actually shortly before the authorities took us away from him. Custody of us away from him. But I distinctly remember, I forget if it was a history teacher or a world civics teacher, but this guy was missing his ring finger. Again, I could look it up I don't remember his name, I could look it up in my grade school yearbook, but this guy was missing his ring finger. Which is kind of ironic. You'd figure it'd be the shop teacher who'd be missing his ring finger. But no, this like I said, he was either history or world civics teacher. He was missing his ring finger. This would have been grade school, shortly before the authorities took custody of me and my sisters away from my father. And one time, I fell asleep in his class. I had to. It was during a test. I had to make it up, and I just remember his attitude towards me. You fell asleep in my class, and of course I was just a stupid, scared little kid. But I don't know if maybe I was actually by this time was getting more aggressive and more. But I think I might have been thinking in my head, "What do you want from me, buddy? My male feminist loser father won't let me sleep at night." Okay, now for some fun time. So, I hit the jackpot recently at the Goodwill. I spent about $50 on CDs. I found it doesn't happen that often anymore, but mainly because I pretty much have everything now. But I hit the jackpot with CDs at the Goodwill in a way that I think drastically extended my punk catalog. I didn't have much punk in my collection, other than a couple of miscellaneous collections, The Clash and Blink 182. But beyond that, I didn't really have a whole lot of punk in my collection, till now. And some of this stuff, I suspect, could possibly be underground type stuff. There's one here simply called For Rights, and it's straight up punk. But there's a name, Sam Donald's. There's an address and a phone number. It's local. I'm not going to say on it here. This is a public platform, but it just further supports my theory that this could be underground up and coming band, or at least a band who was trying to up and come in the music industry. Whatever the case, it's obviously Origins is my neck of the woods. But I like that. I like the idea that I'm listening to music that perhaps nobody else is. But I do want to start listening to my 7,777 CD collection more often and doing less social media going forward. By which I mean watching social media. Another interesting find. This is actually a mix from a place called Full Steam Records. Interesting. I really like the first 3 tracks. There's some stuff that probably would be considered more commercial friendly. There's even something I would almost consider like Irish punk. But I was thinking maybe I could get away with playing some of this stuff on my channel, but then I thought, the odds are somebody owns the rights to some of this stuff. Maybe not the underground stuff, but somebody owns the rights to this stuff. Even if this Full Steam company failed as a company, somebody bought it and therefore owns the rights to this, whatever the intellectual property is on here. But I suspect that's not the case for all of them. Some of them, the artwork was obviously written by hand. But over the years, I have found a lot of ones like this. Sometimes it's crap, and sometimes it's like, I wonder why they didn't make it. Bad marketing? Here's another one I thought. Apparently it was compiled by somebody named DJ Snazzy Steve. Burglar the Burglar. He's got a little hand-drawn artwork of obviously somebody with a bag of cash in one hand and a disguise. Judging by the titles of some of these tracks, I suspect there's going to be some off-color stuff on this one. But that's part of the fun. It's part of the fun, as I don't know. As I listen to it, like, oh, okay. But, finding CDs, especially odd ones like this, I get a sense of kindred spirit with the former owners, Maybe they were outcast, like me too. They were outcasts to their family. I know that. Well, that's a strong word. Outcast. It makes it sound intentionally cruel or something. I don't mean it like that necessarily. I just mean that I am definitely the black sheep in my family. I don't really relate 100% to my family, and vice versa. They really don't relate to me. But this, like I said, this doesn't happen that often anymore because I have 70 to 80% of all the music ever made now in my collection, or at least some good samples of all the different genres. I hate to think the person died, but I'm sure that is the case sometimes, why I end up acquiring these CDs. Because it just has to do with entertainment and not having to do with historical information. It should be interesting to look up and see if there's anything out there about some of these bands. A couple other examples: Andy and the Outcry, Dance Among the Fools, Catatona, Equally Cursed and Blessed, which looks like it might be a punk band that's fronted by a female, judging by the photocopied cover. But again, it'll be fun to explore this stuff. Some of it wasn't all underground. This obviously is a mainstream thing from either 93 or 96. It's got 2 copyright dates on it. Maybe 93 is the copyright of the material. And then 96, they finally got it produced. But a band called Mustard Plug. Yeah, that's an interesting cover. Don't get that shit in your eye there, buddy. With a lot of these, you can tell by the artwork and packaging that they were not made for mass production. At least not yet. Here's one simply called I Attack. Again, it's pretty simple artwork. Maybe they were up and coming band and they had a deal in the Chicago area or something. Obviously politically motivated with songs like Freedom and Anti, Snapper, or Sniper rather. As that, it should be interesting to explore this stuff. Alright, I don't want this video to be too long, so I just want to address, so my last few videos, I got several of them that got views in the hundreds of views, like 400 or 500, something like that, except for one. And the one that didn't, I actually suspected would. I made a video called AOC and Bernie Sanders 2028, where I was mocking that idea in the video. To my surprise, it's only got about 10 or 11 views at this point. But then I thought, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe most folks don't remember and don't care who AOC and Bernie Sanders are anymore. And that would make sense. I went to AOC's YouTube channel. She only has about a subscription in the thousands. That's not that many. Okay, last but not least, as I said, I am weeding myself off watching social media. There's only a few really that I get any real value out of anyways. NTD News, Dr. Steve Turley Talks, Matt Cross of the 33 Secrets, Alexander Grace, but those guys only post 1 or 2 videos a week now anyways. But I did discover one new guy that I will be probably watching a little bit more of, and that's this comedian Chris Dallas. He uses AI, but not as a mean to coerce. You're not going to believe that what you're seeing is the real person, or not AI, unless you are the politically correct term, special. Unless you're special, or as I prefer to call it, born with mental retardation. But yeah, he's done Robin Williams. He's done my favorite, George Carlin. The Robin Williams one, one of the things he says in there is, "Yeah, Chris Dallas. He's a great comedian. He writes scripts like it's 1970 and cocaine. Yeah, it's still legal." So I probably will be watching some a little bit of Chris Dallas, anyways. Mike Parallax, thank you for your time.